Welcome to my friend Fazıl Ahmed and the person who runs the Maverick subreddit Twitter account. Both of you for rejoining the podcast today. This is gonna be a really fun one, guys.
Yes, sir.
I'm excited.
Whew. We did it, boys. We did it, boys. In that we actually did nothing, but the Mavs did it, boys. Luka Doncic. I can't believe it. I mean, is it weird that a part of me still can't believe that we got this dude?
No, I woke up today and I was like, wow, we really drafted Luka Doncic, and I've been thinking that for most of the day. And even when I went to see Jurassic World earlier today, a
Yeah.
thought came to my head, wow, we have Luka Doncic as like a person was getting eaten by a T-Rex. So, it's
Yeah.
been like that.
Oh,
It's been weird, dude. Because like the entire time up until the draft, I was like, oh, like I was reading like up on like different like people that we might draft, and I was like I don't think like he's gonna be there. Like someone's gonna take him. I was like, someone's gonna take him, and I was like, okay, cool. Like he's gonna be gone.
mhm.
I'm okay with Bombo, whatever. Like, I, and
Yeah, I
yeah, dude,
I
it was crazy.
resigned myself to the same fate, man. Um, I was okay with Mo Bamba. It was really a situation where, you know what, you're not gonna get a horrible pick in the top five of one of the most top heavy drafts in recent history, right? And it's not like the Mavs didn't need a big, but I think everybody that is on the internet and is a fan of basketball has seen highlights of Luka Doncic and knows exactly how cold-blooded this dude can be. Um, and we're gonna really do a little bit of a deep dive into his game. I've been watching a lot of film of his for like a year and a half now. I know we've all watched highlights, and we can temper expectations or we can go full homer and completely hype this crap up, right?
It's definitely going to be the latter.
Yeah,
Follow
yeah.
my account. If you follow my account, I'm a super homer, so it's like
Oh yeah, dude.
Bill Simmons, but less annoying. So
Honestly, you're originally you started as the mascot for the Mavs homer, and now you've kind of become like the superhero embodiment of that ideal of just like Mavs over everything, fuck everyone else, and I fucking love it.
2-0 next year. I don't give a shit.
Oh yeah,
Everybody,
oh yeah. Going back to before the draft though, I think I don't know I don't know what y'all thought or what the prevailing opinion was, but there were these rumors that Luka was gonna fall past 3 for a while, and part of me was thinking, this has to be a smokescreen. Somebody has to want him in the top 3. And then the other half of me was like, we're talking about the Suns, who are probably going to go for Aiton, the Kings and the Hawks, and then we're talking about the Grizzlies. So it's very possible that all 3 of these organizations are butt fuck stupid. And I apologize for the crassness, but it was very possible that he was gonna fall in my mind. So when there were discussions about trading Wes Matthews in order to move up, I was like, I don't know about that, but Luka's Luka, right? He's a champion on every level he's played. Um, it, even yesterday I couldn't believe it. Even even the day that the draft occurred, when who was it? Mark Stein tweeted it out first. I was more hung up on the fact that he used closing in on closing a deal. Like that stuck out more in my mind than the fact that we got Luka Doncic, which I think is blasphemous, considering that Luka is going to be a stud for us.
gonna be a stud. There's no way like just look. I mean, obviously, like I don't do analytics or anything like that. Like that's all like those other people that like just simply on eye test. It's like what the hell is this kid? Like he's 19, like literally like killing playing some of like the best pros that aren't in the NBA, like which is still like it's still like a pretty damn high level. Like like I know the Spanish league is like I know it's like considered like the second best league in the world, and it's like like so I don't know, man. Like people are always like, oh yeah, he's I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all the whole Facebook thing I was complaining about earlier. So the thing I've been kind of talking about on Twitter for a little bit right now. If you're
Oh, yeah.
streaming
Of
this,
I mean of course. Of course. You show up on my timeline every single time you tweet something or retweet something. And that's why for the past 2 days I've been tweeting the most outrageous crap that I can just to get some clout. um Going back to Luca, of course. There's this whole thing with NBA Twitter where as soon as somebody's drafted and the hype kind of reaches a pinnacle for somebody like Doncic, we reach a point where there's this counter opinion, which is he's gonna bust. He's a European. He's playing against less physically adept talent and all of this. And to a certain extent, that is true. But having watched a lot of film on him, I can tell you this: he is skilled. He can shoot. He makes passes that I definitely do not see coming, and he has one of the highest basketball IQs I've ever seen from any player I've ever broken down film on. Like it's elite level. Like it's young LeBron James level IQ at this point. That's what I see from this kid.
what was the first thing I tweeted? I think it was like Slovenians, and
You
like
you just cut off there. Did you say Slovenian LeBron James?
I was thinking about like that's what I've been calling him like for the past like just like he's not just like oh he's like Slovenian LeBron James. Like if he's there, like I'm gonna grab him. Like there's no way around that.
Definitely, definitely. I'm gonna move into my notes on his game overall and how I've seen him improve over the past year. Y'all feel free to chime in, stop me at any point. We can do a deep dive or talk about where he is, what his mistakes have been, and where he can improve on each one of these categories. All right.
All right.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna start out with shooting because the storyline on the media side is that this is the heir apparent to Dirk Nowitzki. So I feel like it's very important to start off here. Um, his shot is kind of deceptively quick. He takes a little bit of time to lock in his arm into the holster, and what I mean by that is the anchor point by which his shot kind of goes up. Um, but it's really consistent. I think over the past 2 years of games that I've kind of seen missed and made shots from, there's never a point where even when he's off balance or he's moving or he's done a dribble move to shake his defender, where his setup for his shot form is off or his elbow isn't facing the right direction. Um, and that balance is kind of key to why I think he could be the heir apparent to Dirk Nowitzki from a scoring perspective, because it's really difficult to force him to to take an off-balance shot that he's not comfortable with. I don't think I've ever seen him really forced to take an off-balance shot that he was not able to at least get his shot off for. Okay, so there's nothing to add to that. So
I mean
from
like yeah,
sorry, what'd you say?
I would say for me like not film, more like just like highlights, like mixtapes basically. And like I agree though, like I see like like and he's working under Dirk, and Dirk has Holger. you know, imagine Luca and Holger working together. Holy shit! so
Dude, at this point, I've had an erection for 4 days, and I'm not afraid to state that on live Twitch TV. Honestly, I have no shame about admitting it. I mean, if you're a male Mavs fan and you've seen Luka Doncic's highlight mixtapes, there's no way you cannot be at least slightly aroused.
it's insane. Like
No, but seriously, his game is insane. I mean, he's gotten to at least an average level on basically every skill that you could have on the offensive end, and that's why I think he's so potent. And I think that at the end of the day, uh, is is depictive. No, it's indicative. That's the word I'm looking for, of his high basketball IQ. So from there, let me move to dribbling, because this is kind of how, not just how he shoots, but also how he plays in isolation, where his basketball IQ comes into play. So just mechanically, he has a really low center of gravity, even though he's 6'8", 230 pounds. Um, but that doesn't mean he isn't quick on his feet. Um, on isolations, I've noticed he keeps his dribble really low because it forces his defender to choose where they're looking, at the ground to kind of look for a steal, or at his chest to tell where he's going. And then on the other side of it, he does this thing. There's a clip that I think both of you have probably seen where he crosses up a a player on FC Barcelona, and he like goes left. He does an in and out dribble to the right, left, right again, and this dude gets his ankle broken twice.
Yeah,
And if you
Yes.
have, you both have seen that, right? Did
yeah.
you pay attention to his eyes, what he was doing when he kind of did the hesitation dribbles?
Um,
Didn't I'll admit I haven't.
Okay,
Like I'll
this is how much of a maniac I am, guys. He every single time that the ball would come back up into his hand on the left side or on the right side, he looks up at the basket as if he's readying himself for a shot. So it forces his defender to choose whether they're going to move up on him or give him space because they think he's about to drive. And because he's so good at playing on the defender's perceptions in isolation, especially as a guard, I think that makes him all the more lethal. Like that's a skill that is going to translate no matter what. He toys with his defenders. I mean, it is assassin like what he does at that level. Anything to add to that, guys?
a little bit, yeah.
Okay, let's go.
So I've seen. All right, when those clips came out, there's that one like the double ankle breaker that we just mentioned. But there's another one where like I don't know, Luca just does basically a basic crossover at the 3-point line. Then he breaks somebody's ankles, and it looks super unrealistic, like something you'd see on 2K. And then he shoots the three over the guy, and he makes it, of course. Um, I remember that clip going on Twitter, and everybody was like, "Oh wow, look at his competition!" Like, I saw a bunch of white guys, and wow, they're all such trash, and they was basically just like negging his entire, the quality of the EuroLeague or whatever league he was in at the time.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's tough to say if that's going to work in the NBA like today, but does it matter? Because, he's so smart and he's going to have work with like, training with the Mavs staff, which we have God, Sham God. I'm pretty sure, most Mavs fans are aware of that because
Yeah.
he did good work with Dennis and Yogi and basically all of our young players, including Harrison Barnes to an extent.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think Luca is going to be an exception to that, obviously. So,
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Um, I'm before I get back into dribbling, I'm going to address what you said, Fazil. Um, yeah, his level of competition aren't like the most athletically gifted people, but saying that it's a bunch of white guys in athletic, undersized is
yeah,
kind of ridiculous. I mean, he's playing in, what is it, the ACB, right? Yeah, he's playing the ACB for
yeah,
Real Madrid, right? So first off, super prestigious league. He's been playing against people older than him since he was 13 years old. He's been playing professional level in that league since he was 15 years old. Okay? If you look at all of his accolades, he is the most accomplished player to ever play in that league, and he is 2 years younger than the next youngest MVP of that league. So his what he's succeeded at, there's no debating it, right? But now the question is, relative to the NBA, how can we gauge his offensive talent? And you're right, his basketball IQ is going to translate no matter what. But here's the other thing, and this is what people don't always see. Yes, he struggles. Yes, he's not going to make every single shot, but he's not playing against these inathletic, inexperienced scrubs. Like they're ex-NBA players on a lot of the teams that he's playing. I mean, when he was playing in EuroBasket, uh, he was routinely facing guys that were bigger than him, or faster than him, or better conditioned than him, and he still finds a way to utilize not only his own skills and his defenders' uh, inability to make quick decisions, but he is a savant with the pick and roll. I heard that on ESPN, and I could not agree with it more because he will force you to make that quick decision on a screen, and based on that, he is going to use changes of momentum to both keep the defense honest and to create space from his defenders so that he can shoot if necessary. But on top of both of those things, he allows his teammates to move off ball and take off ball screens, maybe do a backdoor cut, or he allows his roll man to get free and go all the way to the hoop. And any combination of those things allows him to be an excellent playmaker. I mean, it is very difficult to overrate how good of a playmaker he is. He makes passes that are so smart and so quick that I can't help but feel excited for how Dennis is going to score this next year. I mean, he's going to posterize a lot of players just off of how much attention Luka gets. I would say in the preseason. I think we're going to see it happen.
I mean, that's assuming that he plays in the preseason, but he might not. I don't know. We'll see.
He's
But for
not
sure,
going
he's
to
not
play in the
playing.
summer league, but he might play in the preseason. I would say it's more probable.
Um, he
Yeah.
said he said something about, yeah, he's probably more than likely not playing in the summer league, but he said something about maybe playing with the Slovenian national team, which it was just qualifiers or something, right? So it's only going to
Hmm.
be 2 games. He only has to get like approval from, Cuban and the Mavs front office. Hopefully he gets it. I mean, I know Mark Cuban is, I don't want to say famously, because like who outside of Dallas would know this, but he's been pretty outspoken about, not letting guys play international competition that isn't like freaking Team USA. But I'm hoping he lets Luka play, because, under the guise of like keeping him fresh, or like, in shape, not rusty. And it'd be good for us to, I think, a lot of people to see his game on a better stage and more recent stage.
Um,
I think.
go ahead.
I think he will. I think Cuban will. Like, I don't. NBA is now. It's like not trying to talk like I'm old. But, the way the NBA is now, it's like you get to make sure these guys are happy. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah. No, 100%. Especially because Cuban has to be aware that coming from Slovenia or coming from Spain, it, it's a pretty huge culture shock to be in the U.S. for basically the first time in your life, and being 19. Like you can see it in interviews. I mean, the dude speaks two languages very fluently, and he understands both of them pretty well. Um, and he's pretty decent at English, but he's not able to respond as quickly or kind of put his thoughts into words as well. Um, that doesn't necessarily mean that he isn't comfortable with the situation here. But what it does mean is that the Mavs should do whatever they can to assuage his anxiety about being in a new place. And I think part of that is, like both of you just said, allowing him to partake in the qualifiers. Um, Specifically on what Fazil said, uh, I would say Mark is he's pretty famous nationally for, after the Paul George situation, saying that it's it's a risk letting your players play in international basketball, specifically for uh, Olympic exhibition matches like scrimmages and stuff, um, and that there is a risk involved in any sort of off-season play. But at the same time, I I think his attitude is more important right now than his health uh, or his energy level is. I mean, what has he played, like 95 games in the past year?
something
Yeah,
like it's been
something
yeah.
ridiculous.
That's fucking ridiculous. Holy shit.
Full NBA season and like playoffs. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. 100%. I mean, just hearing that statistic kind of anybody that says that he isn't NBA ready doesn't understand how difficult it is to play that many games at that level of competition. He's not playing college ball. He is not playing a game that has relatively slow pace. He's playing European style basketball against adults, people up to pretty much age 32 or 33 that are mostly all better conditioned than him. And he still plays 95 games and leads his team to the championship two
Yeah,
years in a row.
and even if it's not quite as athletic, arguably, it's still about as tough, like in terms of the physicality. I'd say, in the same realm as the NBA for sure, because just reading through, a lot of stories and anecdotes about the European basketball, just all the leagues around the area, um, yeah, a lot of fans attest to the fact that in the playoffs, especially then, the refs swallow their whistles, basically just like here, and let the players really go all out against each other.
Mhm.
Um, so there's that, and I'd say that's the one thing I'd cite, against when people say Luka's not the best shooter. I mean, I get it. He's not like Trae Young level, or he's not a from three at least. He's not a totally knockdown shooter, which I get it. Like I'm not trying to like sanitize that or wave it off, but I'd say part of that is just the strain of going through all those 90 games, especially because at the uh at the beginning of this current EuroLeague season, or well, at the beginning of last season, which would have taken place in what, late 2017.
Yeah.
He started off the season. He started off the year like extremely hot. Like he was shooting over 50%, 40% from three, and his slump only came within the last few months, which says to me that as long as you keep him well rested and I guess well conditioned later on, hopefully once he gets to that weight room, he's going to be a force.
Yeah, I mean he's already 230 pounds. That's heavier than Joe Johnson, who is approximately the same size as him, in both wingspan and height, weighed when
Damn.
he was drafted. Right. So it's not as if this guy is skinny, can't hold his own on defense at all. He has good instincts on the defensive end. I think that's something that a lot of casual NBA fans outside of Dallas are pointing out at this point. I do my best to keep up on the criticisms that people lay out for prospects like this, especially when they come to my favorite team. Um, One, because I'm a homer, and two, if I have an opportunity, I like to verbally destroy stupid people on the internet. Um, uh, but that's just my overbearing self-importance speaking. Um, but at the same time, you can't say that Luka's going to bust. There's approximately a 0% chance that he's going to bust. The worst thing that could happen in his career is that he's going to get injured and not play a full season in a Mavs uniform, and God willing, that will not happen, because
I
the
don't like
Mavs have
I
a
don't like
great training staff and everything. What were you saying?
put that in the universe, but
I,
not to the back of my head. Like
Yeah,
I,
Rohan, if you just like spoke that into existence, I'm not going to speak to you again.
both of y'all soft ass pansies, all
Okay.
right? I do this for the sake of evaluation and clout, all right? You can criticize me for everything else.
Okay.
Going back down to the breakdown though, on offense and with dribbling, Luka is adept at going left and right. He can do either at will based on where the defense goes. And he's very good at reading and once again baiting the defense into making a quick decision on which side to cover. This is not limited to just screens. He does this by switching the ball from right to left, whether it's behind the back, through the legs, a hesitation dribble, a simple crossover. And when he does this, driving to the right side in particular, he's very, very effective at stopping his dribble and making a pass cross court because of his height, or catching the roll man right in front of him. He has a highlight that I think both of you have seen where he drives right along the 3-point line after a pick is set for him, and he does a behind the back skip pass ahead to a roll man. The roll man catches it because it's put in just the right position for him, and he dunks it home. Have y'all seen that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I think I watched that today, like this morning.
Jesus. I mean,
Like every morning until like I'm just watching highlights. Okay, like this is what gets me through the day. Like this is my coffee. Like
yeah. It's I mean, we're gonna have Jay on later to talk about this, but also more about Jalen Brunson and the Mavs' other prospects, along with Richie from Mavs draft after the intermission. But he posted something on Snapchat today. Yeah, he took a screenshot of a LUKA Doncic highlight video, and he said, "I told myself I would stop watching porn, but I just can't resist." And it's so true. Like, it's very difficult not to hype yourself up about this guy because the Mavs have had, yes, they got Dennis, um, yes, they got Wes. They had Chandler Parsons balling out for a year, even though they did not win any of those 3 years that I'm talking about. Um, it was it was fun to watch the highlights of those games, right? But now you have two young guys with star potential who can work together, who have skill sets that complement each other. And on top of all of that, you have one of the best X's and O's coaches in the league. And it's not just the play calling or the offensive system, it's how he coaches and how he runs his coaching staff. Zaza Pachulia a couple years ago had an interview where he was talking about how Rick does his film room sessions. And what he did at that time, and presumably what he still does, is he'll take out a tablet like an iPad, and he'll have a video playing, right? A clip from the last game, and the video will pause at a certain point when a player is making a decision, and then two choices will pop up on the screen based on what you should do. And quizzes like that, where you're really focusing on the minutia of decisions that affect the flow of the game, are gonna work wonders with young players like this, especially when Luka does not have the greatest grasp on English yet.
I'm so excited. Sorry. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about Carlisle's. Like those are pretty cool though.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's
Cool.
really easy for people outside of the Mavs fan base to say that we overrate Carlisle, but we really do not. He is he is a mad genius in all aspects. Like he obsesses over like the small things that affect the game as he has seen it for his entire career.
If I'm gonna be moderately analytic, he's like the second greatest coach in the league right now. you
Oh,
know,
100%. Who
you know,
who's the first?
and pop. But
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to say that. Despite everything going down with Kawhi right now, despite, the fact that the Spurs didn't do anything to write home about last year. Um, yeah, Pop is Pop is the best coach. I mean, you cannot beat that track record. You
yeah.
can't. People like to put Spoelstra in the conversation. I think that's complete bullshit. If Spoelstra was in the West, he would get his ass beat and they would be tanking. Um,
Definitely like a second tier, like
yeah,
first tier, then the second. I think he's like over there.
yeah. I think Spoelstra is in that second or third tier. Um, if he's in the third tier, he's near the top of it because when it comes to the film room, that's where he started and that's his bread and butter. And he's good with players. I'm not gonna take that away from him. But there's levels to it, just like you said. But they say Brad Stevens is knocking on the door, and I'd say purely for his system and the way he can manage his players. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, again, if he was in the West and not the East, it would be a different story. He wouldn't have the resounding success that he does have on the NBA level in his young coaching career. But you can't really debate the fact that he's faced, at least this past year, he's faced LeBron and took him to a game 7 with basically his B
Al
team.
Horford.
With Al Horford and Greg Monroe at center.
By the way, the best comparison I've heard about Al Horford, sorry, Celtics Twitter, reggaeton most spates, which is like the most hilarious fucking thing I've ever heard.
Oh God. No, I think Al Horford is
Oh,
better
yeah.
is better than that, but like
Sorry, I know you. Just like,
obviously we're veering off of the deep end, but goddamn, like Celtics Twitter is really difficult to read and be okay with. Like Bill Simmons, as much as I love him being a huge figure in sports writing because he talks about teams like the Mavs, whereas ESPN won't give the Mavs even 5 seconds on most of their shows to talk about the third pick in the fucking draft. Um, Bill said something during the playoffs where he was like, Al Horford was on my ballot for All NBA second team. Bill, what are you fucking smoking? I would never say that Harrison Barnes deserves to be an All Star, right? Even though if the Mavs were winning, he would definitely be in that conversation, right? I will say that Monte Ellis deserved to be an All Star the 2 years that he was here, at least the first year for sure.
yeah, robbed. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Uh, But Al Horford, All NBA second team, what are you smoking?
Didn't he eventually bump him off in favor of Gobert, or what was that? Was that defensive?
He might have like came back and said all NBA second team defense, but he then said that Al Horford was going to be the player like the guy to watch, the MVP of the series between the Cavs and the Celtics. And I just facepalmed so hard. So hard. Come on, man. Just
I
You're
mean,
you're better than this, Bill. You're better than this.
No,
Talk
he's
about
not.
Jason Tatum. No, he is. He is. He even though he can't necessarily write it with meticulous detail like Jonathan Sharks can do, or who's the other guy? Um,
Jason Gallagher.
yes, Jason Gallagher. Um, he still has a good eye test, and he tells it like it is. My favorite draft to watch on ESPN was the draft where he and Jalen Rose were there.
2014.
Yeah, 2014, when Anthony Bennett was drafted first overall, and he couldn't hide the surprise on his face.
That was crazy.
I mean, Bill Simmons, his problem is just that he's been the boss for so long. You know, he doesn't
Yeah,
do a lot of the legwork anymore. He delegates nowadays, and that's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
But like, he pretends to know a lot. Just
yes,
it rubs
He's
me the wrong way.
he's a
yes.
very influential fan, or a high profile fan rather, but he has much smarter guys on his staff than he actually is in terms of knowledge of the NBA now.
Can I press pause on this entire conversation real quick?
Yeah.
The last comment that Jay made on Jason Gallagher, I straight up thought that was Reddit Mavs.
Dude, I was trying to like get your attention, like I texted you, I like DM'd you, and I like messaged you. So then I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna like butt in so that they know me.
Yeah, I had to do a double take and I just opened up the Discord window on my screen and I
Yeah,
was
no,
like, yeah, that's definitely Jay.
when I didn't get a response, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go on Discord and see if I could
Yeah.
join. And it turns out you can.
I mean, I saw and you got responded to, just not by Rohan.
Oh yeah, I know. But then I realized that I could add myself, so
Yeah.
future reference.
You're the captain now.
I am the captain now.
All right, let's go back to Luka Doncic though. We did a little bit of shit talking around the NBA.
That's why we came here.
I mean, that's what we're here to do, right? That's why I'm a little
Yeah.
crunk right now, so that my inhibitions are gone and I can shit talk the hell out of Al Horford. That's what I live for. Uh, but yeah, let's go back to sucking Doncic's dick.
Oh,
Uh, okay, well,
All
I
right.
actually, well, Jay, go ahead if you have anything to say.
No, you go ahead. I'm gonna think of something.
All
I have
right,
a lot of things.
I've got a little bit of a tangent. So, I could understand, when a lot of people just like to look at stats like box score stats. You do this with like college players and EuroLeague players alike, and you just go from there because it's the most easily accessible numbers. It's right there in front of your face, and I get it, but it's the kind of thing you see. Oh wow, Marvin Bagley, he's supposed to be a high school senior right now, but he just put up 20 and 10 a night at Duke, and let's see stuff like that is really impressive. But and you can make a fine argument that players like Bagley, oh, they're going to be great one day. And truthfully, I think like he's got a ton of potential, him specifically. But on the other hand, you take that same argument, you take that same like evaluation method, which is not very in depth at all, and you take it to somebody like Luca, who's in the EuroLeague. They have a totally different system over there because minutes are limited. The games themselves are a little shorter, I think, and they don't have such a, I don't know what exactly the word is, but I'm gonna say ego. They don't have such an ego about like who starts and who comes off the bench because they just want to play to win, right? They're talking about like matchups and all that. So Luca, the MVP, came off the bench several times. It was a common thing for him on his teams, and that as a result, like just flat out, his box score stats weren't the most eye-popping thing you're going to see. And from there, you see a lot of people who are like, oh, well, obviously this guy doesn't deserve to be in contention for the first pick or whatever. But that's just flat out stupid, in my opinion, because if you look at his contemporaries, this is where I'm getting his contemporaries who have been drafted recently, like, let's say you got Porzingis, you got Mirotic, you got
Bogdanovich.
Jokic, Bogdanovich, yeah, both of them. You got Dragic. You have, all sorts of guys from even good players like I just mentioned to less good players like, let's say, Hazonia and Bender. The commonality between all of them is that pretty much none of them put up great stats, or let's throw in Ricky Rubio in there as well. Yeah, none of them put up like the most eye-popping numbers, and
Yeah.
you'll notice like a lot of them are like flat out, all-star level or better nowadays. Like Porzingis could be an All NBA player, Jokic All NBA. Luca, based off his stats, though, he's on the high end of
Hall of
all of
Fame.
those players.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%. I mean, of all those people you listed, Ricky Rubio is the most accomplished guy, and he was drafted into a horrible place in in,
Mhm.
in Minnesota. Not to say that their organization is like Kings level bad, right? But
It used to be.
it
at the
really
time.
did used to be like their personnel management was not there. Their development was not up to par. And it wasn't until this rebuild that they were really starting to focus on their young guys. And by that point, Rubio wasn't young enough to really be a focus for them. He wasn't one of their most talented guys, and so they shopped him. And now he's finally getting a little bit of shine in Utah. But I mean, you're right, man. Look at his resume. Just look at Luca's resume. At every level he's played, he's won. He's been playing against professionals for 4 years since he was
Yeah.
15, right?
Can I go on a tangent here after you're done?
I'm done.
Because
I've repeated that twice now.
like look, a lot of people, you hear them say like, oh, he's playing against like unathletic Euro players, like it's not the same. Well, first of all, like there are two things to this issue. The players in Europe are professionals, like you mentioned. They're all, grown men, right? And many of them are former NBA players. A lot of them are players who are pretty good, but just not quite good enough to make it to the league. So they're still like pretty talented players. You look at the majority of players in college, like how many of these guys have a chance of actually carving out an NBA career for themselves, let alone being a lottery pick. Like not that many. Most of them, as a matter of fact, are going overseas after college, because they're not good enough to play in the NBA. And if you happen to be pretty good, you end up in the Euro League. The Euro League is the second best, basketball league in the world after the NBA. So what Luka Doncic was doing is unprecedented on both the college level and, any other level for a 19-year-old to be the best player on his team, to be embarrassing, every one of his opponents, and to win MVP of the entire league at the age of 19, the youngest ever to do so. That's incredible, and that's never been done before. Like, this is going against competition where there are a lot of quality players. Like, even on Real Madrid itself, like, they have Rudy Fernandez, who, for a good 6 or 7 years was a very quality NBA player. And he's still really good. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch the ACB final game. I watched a little bit of it, but Rudy Fernandez was the
Yeah.
leading scorer in that
Yeah.
game. He had like 32 points. So, these are good players that he's playing against or that he played against in Europe. And now the Mavericks drafted an MVP. Like, whether you like it or not, they drafted an MVP, and I think that means more than the most college, accolades you can get, because we see so many times players that dominate college or dominate high school that just can't make the transition, to the NBA for whatever reason because they're not
Yeah.
skilled enough.
Yeah.
But Luka has the instincts, he has the skills. It's just a matter of adjusting to the higher level of competition now.
For
All
sure.
right, that was my tangent.
No, that was great. I will go on a small tangent though. Jay, you're obviously in California, but based on your coughing, I think you've been partaking too much in the local herbology.
I plead the fifth on that one.
Hey, I don't blame you, man.
Listen to those guys.
The police be crazy. All right, so we have another 15 minutes before we're looking at an intermission, and before we bring in Richie. So Reddit Mavs, what do you have to say about Luka Doncic?
Things about this kid is his passing. Holy shit. This kid's passing is amazing. And how, okay, so like, the God, Tim Cato. Yeah, he, like, I don't know if you noticed, but like, he has like a thread on Twitter. Like, like, just crazy little romp outs. Like, he'll update it, like, whenever, like, a new one comes. It's been happening for, like, I think at least last season.
Is it videos? Sorry, you cut off again. It's your internet, man.
Anyway, so it's either, yeah, so he'll have videos or sometimes gifs or like kind of like mostly videos done. You can go back and like he's a LeBron hype, you know?
Dude, retweet that. Like I need to get on that thread because I
I'm gonna
follow
find it.
Tim. I've gone back and forth with Tim in the private alleyways of the internet before, and he's definitely a writer I'm a fan of. I'm glad he's at the Athletic now. I
Yeah,
enjoyed his Mavs coverage so much. Like even when he's not talking about like serious eye test film room stuff, when he's not breaking down games, like is a hot dog a sandwich? That's a local classic right there.
he's a great follow.
Oh, 100%.
Anyway,
And his
anyways,
Twitter's gold.
but, so he has this video, like this thread, right? So, or the Luca thread, you know, he passes that he does like during the season. I don't know how many he'll get. I'm like, I love it. Like, I'm a huge fan. Like, I'm a huge homer for him, obviously, but I'm a little worried about the turnover rate. Just because, like, if you're doing like a flashy, like behind the back, or like something like that, at least flashy to me, like, like I really do, and I'm just worried about the whole like his turnover rate, and Facebook. Like I don't want people on Facebook to be like, "Oh, this guy's a fucking bust," because he had like 4 turnovers like the other day, like when he's in his like third game ever, like in the NBA and stuff like that. I just want him to like prove like the very few haters that he has wrong, you know, on all levels. I want this kid to succeed. I want this kid to be the second greatest Maverick of all time, and he is to me because he did get me a date. So hopefully you listen to this sometime and my DMs are open, so you can just DM me. I know Spanish, so if you're more comfortable speaking Spanish, like I got it. So, but yeah, like I really want this kid to succeed. He's gonna be amazing. I think I think his floor is just like an O player. you know,
Isn't
like
isn't oh what?
floor is gonna be that he's an overall great NBA player.
Oh, 100%. I think we all can agree with that.
You know,
Yeah.
like his ceiling is the goat. Like
He really has all the skills, man. Like he
if you use some on mythology, like I could totally see him just like
Wonder Boy, dude. Wonder Boy.
yeah, Wonder Boy, Wonder Man, like like
Yeah, he's about well, he is Wonder Man now cuz he's 19, but
like
damn, man. We've gone from Dallas to Fort Worth, Fort Worth to Wurzburg, Wurzburg to Worldwide, all the way to Wonder Boy.
exciting, dude.
Shit. It really is the best way that the draft could have shaped up for the Mavs, and I think that's why it was really important for us to have you here to encapsulate the hype, because I mean we can talk about what he's good at all day, right? But if we're just talking about our eye test, it's not encapsulating how fans are gonna feel about that, and I think you really do have your finger on the pulse of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. And of course, I mean, the dude got you to shoot your shots, so
He did. He
I
did.
mean, Luka's already mending bridges. Speaking of mending bridges, if Luka if Luka wins Rookie of the Year, I'm putting this on the internet, so I have no intention of ever going back on this. If Luka wins Rookie of the Year, I'm gonna shoot my shot for Mina Kimes. I mean, you know what? She's 10 years older than me, but damn. I mean, she knows basketball. She scouts. She graduated from Yale. Her Twitter's pretty nice, and of course she's beautiful. So like, what's not to love, man?
Oh shit.
Hey man, if any of the three people that are here ever actually get a follow from her, you already know. You already know.
I don't think I actually follow her. I should.
Yeah,
Yeah, same.
the only reason I know about her is because before the draft, there was a lot of talk that Phoenix might pick up Luka because his former Slovenian national team coach was hired by Phoenix, and the Jump, which is by the way the only good, and by good I really mean it's a great show on ESPN. I mean they're the only show that gives fair coverage across the board in the for the NBA, and they were breaking down Luca, and she was on there, and I was like, damn, who is this chick? She knows basketball. She's been watching EuroLeague basketball for like so long. She's basically an expert on Luca's game. And you know what? You know what? Everything I've seen from her in the media makes me fanboy.
Well, if I ever get that follow back, I will. I'll put in a good word.
Oh, thank you, thank you, my friend. And as soon as your cloak of anonymity lifts, we should do a live podcast all from the same location on Periscope. Jay had that idea a while ago. I think it eliminates a lot of the
Oh yeah.
complexity of this, um,
Oh yeah.
but it also allows us to keep the tone of this just being a conversation. I think that's really important to what we do at Reunion Lights.
Oh, that'd be tight. All right.
Oh hell yeah, man! And that way we can play 2K and get drunk as fuck.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We are going to go into an intermission. By the way, for Red Skull, the person I was talking about was Mina Kimes. Look her up on Twitter. Um, we are going to go into a 5 to 10 minute intermission. Uh, once again, at Reddit Mavericks, thank you for joining us. Dude, it's so difficult not to say your name, man. um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tweeting this out, helping us out a little bit with getting our name out there, and we should definitely have you on a lot more of our content.
I hope to once I move back, man, a whole new world. So
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. And by the way, congrats on the job.
thank you. I
Yeah, dude,
appreciate it.
congrats.
Congrats.
Absolutely. All right.
Start in 3 weeks. So
Oh shit. So you already got like vacation days.
yeah, yo, I'm next in like a week and a half. I go visit family and then I work. So
Right, that's right. Yeah, you did mention that earlier. Anyways, we are going to go to an intermission, and during that intermission, we will bring in our good friend Richie, um, and maybe I'll sober up a little bit. Who knows? I will tweet out when the intermission is over. Please stay with us.